All right, hello.
Hello, Al. Hello,
So
Alex.
we're all good to go here?
I believe so. I see HalfLife on the screen.
All right, excellent. So you can see Gordon's beautiful face. So we're going to get started with the game right away here. So something I have to quickly do in order to actually start the run is I have to go on a different save, so ignore this. So we're going to start the run when we hit this command here. So we're going to do that in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so here we are with HalfLife. Very classic FPS, movement-based FPS game, with forward bunny hopping being the main movement mechanic. So, forward bunny hopping is basically we're going to be air strafing in the air, which is going to allow us to build up speed because we're moving on 2 different planes at once, and there's some very complicated calculus going on with that. There's like theses on how air strafing works in Quake and Half-Life. It's absurd. Either way, we can preserve that speed by jumping when we land off the ground, which is technically a frame-perfect input, but we can spam the scroll wheel to make that a lot easier on ourselves. So we end up only missing frames every so often, but it is very possible that you can miss bunny hop frames and lose a bit of speed because of it. So something you're going to see throughout the run is the game's going to lag a little bit. I'm manually limiting my frame rate in order to make NPCs either turn faster, take less fall damage. Basically, the frame rate is what controls the physics of the game. So for instance, there, I tried opening that door a bit earlier by lowering my FPS to 4. That's the sort of stuff we're going to be expecting with FPS stuff. This guy's turning faster, for instance. So just minor things that we're going to be doing throughout the run in order to be able to do that. There's a bunch of different FPS binds I need to do. I think 5 in total is how many I have for various methods. So this game's kind of a key binding mess, but we make do with what we have. So this is going to be the long cutscene of the run. After this, we don't got many long cutscenes, so I'd take this time to remind people to refill their water, use the bathroom, all that good stuff. Make sure you're drinking water throughout this wonderful day of speedrunning. And aside from that, if there's any donations or anything to be read, feel free to do so.
We don't have any donations, but I do want to mention, hey, if this is a cutscene, that means you have just enough time to get to the Tiltify page and donate without missing any of this gameplay. So do that. We only need $64 to get to that Steel Battalion controller camp. And I say that, and we just got a new donation in. We have $20 from Meruthin47, never been past stage 2 of Steel Battalion. Looking forward to this run. Well, I'm looking forward to the run too, and that puts us only $44 away from that Steel Battalion controller camp. I know you all want to see it. We all want to see it. Come on, let's donate for it.
That's what I like to hear. Get the money in. Keep that paper rolling. So, basically, what's going on here in the story is that this is a very sketchy government-run research facility in the middle of New Mexico, I believe. And what we've been experimenting on for however long they've been doing it is interdimensional portals, which is, if you know anything about Doom, don't do that. You'll let not good things in. So in Doom, they let the demons in from heck, and then here we're just going to let some aliens into the world, and we're going to have to deal with the repercussions of that. So Gordon is a man who's late for work, and he put on a suit and he pushed a cart, and he's the most important person in the world because of it. So, and as well, I'm just going to leave this out there. I will be seeing chat throughout this, so if anyone has particular questions they want to ask, whether they be about me or the game, feel free to do so. I will do my best to answer, but I'm going to be focusing, obviously, on what I got in front of me. So, got another minute of waiting here before the cart's going to come up. And when this cart does come up, we're going to do something a little bit wacky with it that you might not be expecting. Normally, we're supposed to put the cart into this laser here. And we are going to do that, but we're going to do something a little bit extra. I have played Black Mesa. In fact, I'm doing a run of that later today for a different marathon. So, like an hour after this. So, that's going to be fun. Very good speedrun as well. Recently made very good. So either way, what we're doing here is we're setting ourselves up with a pixel angle using the U pixels on this very low quality texture that I'm using in order to line up this skip that I'm going to do. So this cart's an object, and when Gordon moves objects, he does it really strongly. So what we're going to do here is we're going to strongly move this object, and we have to hit a frame perfect trick. Keep in mind this game runs at 100 FPS, so we're just going to keep doing this for a while until we get there. Might take a bit. Come on, we got this. There we go. So there we go. You can make it all the way up to the top of the map, and there's a random trigger there that will allow you to skip to the next part of the map despite not going through the normal cutscene that you have to. On top of it, you may have noticed there that I fell down and not took any damage. The reason that happened is because I was able to do a trick called a jump bug, where you basically need to both uncrouch and jump when you were 2 units above the ground. That's frame perfect at 23 FPS. So 2 pretty precise tricks at the end of that chapter before heading into where I would say the speedrun really begins in unforeseen consequences. So this chapter is going to introduce the idea of having to keep flow with your movement. Basically, high-level movement in this game is trying to maintain as much speed as possible while also trying to get through all these nooks and crannies that are constantly blocking your path. This is like one of the hardest chapters in the game, in my opinion, just because there's such an insane amount of tight corners and tight little spaces you have to kind of get your way through in order to keep your movement really fast. So it's quite easy to lose a lot of time on this chapter, despite it being so early on, which can be a little saddening, but you do what we do best. So, something I've been doing throughout this that may not have registered is that I have been keeping a very particular HP route where I grabbed some armor earlier on and grabbed all that armor and health back there. The reason I wanted to do that was so that I could jump through that electricity there. So that is a skip that was recently routed into the game that saves a couple seconds, but involves having to change your entire route for the first 4 chapters of the game. So it is possibly the most difficult and complicated tiny time save that you could do in this early game. One of the factors that makes it so difficult is that we need to basically go through these chapters while taking the minimum amount of damage in order to save as much time as possible due to that strat. So if you see here, I have 31 HP. This is the amount of HP you'll have after doing the electricity skip. And if we lose any HP, each point lost will equal a tenth of a second lost. So we ideally don't want to lose any of that. So here we have Barney's skip. Barney is a scientist. A security guard, and he does not like grenades. He also doesn't like red doors, so he's going to open them for us. NPC abusing is a mechanic in this game where basically the first time you load onto a map, an NPC will have a messed up node pathing, and it will cause them to open doors that they otherwise shouldn't have been able to open. So here we have a complete chapter skip for We Got Hostiles, where we're going to throw a grenade at that wall, and then we need to get into this room fast enough that we can actually hit a trigger before that door fully opened. Very hard trick there that I just kind of casually did. This is a pretty solid start so far, I gotta say. So either way, we're in Blast Pit now, which is the first long, difficult chapter in this game. In my opinion, the most difficult chapter. So here, we're doing a big grenade boost. We wanted to keep our HP as high as possible throughout those previous chapters so that we didn't have to heal as much to do that grenade boost. Now here I'm going to be doing a bit of a swag strat called the Prototype strat, found and implemented by Proto-AUS. It's a very hard strat, where basically we need to surf off of this little sidebar here and land on there, and we can skip that part. That definitely didn't save any time. That strat is basically a do it first try or you don't save time sort of deal, and with how difficult it is, being one of the most difficult movement tricks in this game, getting that within like 3 tries is good. So bit of a rough one there, but that's okay. Now we're on this elevator. Can say can shoot that bull squid if we want. Oh, whoops. Got a little bit crushy there. Was lost a little bit, but that's okay. So now, in fact, that actually did mess things up a little bit, but I'll be able to fix this. Either way, we needed to do an edge bug there. So edge bugs is a mechanic where basically if you land on a ledge and then slide off that edge within a single frame, you can end up falling without taking any damage, which is very convenient to do. So unfortunately, because of how I messed up earlier, it messed up my armor routing. So HP and armor routing are extremely important in this game at pretty much every single point of the run. With HP, you just basically want to have as much as you possibly can throughout any particular time. With armor, though, the more armor you have, the less you'll actually get boosted from grenades. So you actually want to have enough armor that you can limit your HP loss as much as possible, while not limiting your potential to get fast boosts. So we're going to jump over that goo there, break these. Normally I'd use those barrels to boost, but because I messed up my armor routing, I have to do this traditional grenade boost instead, which is alright, not too much slower. So basically, throughout the game, you need to take into account how much unnecessary HP you've lost, where you can get some HP back if you need to, and take into account what strats you can and can't do due to your HP. So it's pretty much a constant worry and a constant thing in the back of your mind that you have to manage all these resources given to you throughout the run, which is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting parts about the routing aspect of this game. So going through the blast pit, breaking some things. Our goal here in this chapter is to essentially go to the different sides of the blast pit so that we can go inside the center room, which will have a boss fight in it that we can murder with some fire now. So we're going to go ahead and do that, activating that through a wall. If you haven't noticed, we can activate buttons through walls. We're going to do it again right here. It's because the game doesn't really check if there's anything in the way, and we're within the radius of being able to hit the button, so the game just lets us do it. So, good fire button time from what I can tell. I don't have my in-game timer on me right now, but that felt pretty solid. But either way, now that we can chill here, my HP is ridiculously high. I don't have to heal at all. That's insane. Either way, when you have less than 50 HP, scientists heal you, so we do that there because we have to wait for that death sequence anyway. So, end of blast pit. We have one more thing we need to do before we can move on to the end, and that's drop down here to get some armor. This is a difficult route that I'm going to be trying to perform called the nade rails route, where we're going to be going on a rail, and there's a strat that I'm going to be doing involving a grenade boost that normally you wouldn't do because it is very, very high risk and not very high reward. But when you run at the top level of this game, you kind of just have to take those. So we're going to throw a grenade under there, object boost there. Didn't really explain the object boosting yet, did I? But either way, I'll get to that in a second. So the reason we needed to throw that grenade was because all these objects, or items on the ground rather, got pushed from the last map onto this one using that grenade, which is quite nice. Allows us to get all those items without having to actually break all the boxes and wait on that map, and it just saves a small amount of time, and it's a nice convenient way to save a bit. So something we're doing with these trip mines we just got is building a little bit of a staircasey, jumping up there, and we're going to try to do some movement to avoid landing in the water, which I messed up. It's still, to this day, one of the hardest movement sequences for me to pull off. So now we're going to spend some time healing, and now I'm going to take the time to explain object boosting. So basically, when you do an object boost in the game, you're basically moving an object at very high speed, because Gordon has like Hulk arms or something, and he can chuck things at really high speeds. And for some reason, it also moves you. And the great thing about that is that it basically moves you up to the max speed that the game will really allow you to get to, which is 2,000 in any one particular plane, pretty much instantly without having to spend any resources. So normally, you know, grenade boosting is going to cost a grenade and some HP. There's some other ways of getting speed later that are going to cost some other resources, but object boosting costs absolutely nothing to do, so it's probably the most powerful strat you can do in the game, but also a very difficult and awkward one to learn for newcomers. So this was a really good nade rails. I didn't have to load a single save, I believe, so that was pretty alright. So, if you haven't noticed, the early game in this game is kind of just a gauntlet of incredibly difficult stuff. The early game in this game is significantly harder than the second half of the run, although the second half isn't particularly easy. This start of the run is absurdly hard. On a Rail and Blast Pit are 2 out of 3 of the hardest chapters in the game, pretty much back to back. So it's very, very easy to lose a run here, especially because I messed up that edge bug strat. Let's go down the ladder. Yeah, shoutouts to everyone for the donations, getting that controller cam met, some hype stuff. You can take some time to read those donations now. We're going to be going into a little bit of a cutscene on the next map.
Sure thing. So Lee Dragon is the one that put us over the top for that controller cam, and he donated all $44 all at once, and we were lacking to fit that, and all he wrote was controller cam, controller cam.
Let's go. That's what I like to see.
Yeah, but don't forget, we still have other controller cam incentives later. So, for example, we'll be doing a speed run later of Ring Fit Adventure. If you want to see a controller cam with a guy running in place going as fast as possible, you better donate for that. Or we also have later Super Mario 64 played on a DDR pad. You want to donate for those also.
Alright, so I'm done with that cutscene now. So we're going to make our way to the end of the chapter. What I was doing there is I was using the pistol to time when the map actually ends. There's a long sequence on that map that you have to wait for it to end before you can actually move on. So now that we've done that, we're on apprehension. So apprehension is a pretty light chapter compared to what we've been used to. Just a couple of small movement sequences separated by a lot of downtime, for instance, swimming, which involves holding the W key and trying not to hit some leeches that are going to come up right here. Please don't touch me. Thank you. Nothing bad happens if they touch you other than the fact that you get blocked, and it's a little bit upsetting, especially if you're on an incredible pace. So, first movement sequence out of 3, we're going to be trying to get across this water without landing in it, which is a success. Number 2 right here, once again, goal is to not land in any water. There we go. And number 3 coming up right now. There you go. That's basically the chapter is done, except actually the strat's kind of hard. So the strat here, we basically need to make this Vortigaunt not see us when we round that corner. So I ended up lowering my FPS to 4, because what that will basically do is it will give me enough time between the quarter second interval frames to get around that corner before the Vortigaunt would actually be able to see me. And as soon as he lays his eyes on me, he will not open that door no matter what you do, unless you throw another grenade at him. And the general idea behind the NPC abusing is that all the NPCs will get scared of explosives, or you in general. If it's a scientist, they'll just get scared of you and run away. And they will basically, if you block their paths correctly, go to the door in question that you want them to open. But now either way, we've gotten captured, so we got a bit of a cutscene here as well. We're going to heal up a little bit while it's going on, but you can fit some time in for some donations now.
All right, so we don't have any more donations, but I just want to mention again that this marathon is raising money for Direct Relief, which is helping raise money and get personal protective equipment to healthcare workers around the world in this coronavirus pandemic. So every single dollar you donate is going to a very good cause.
Very true. So this is an interesting strat here, where these Star Wars-esque garbage things are actually trains, and you can activate them like trains. So you can make that one start moving earlier than it normally would. You can use that and do a very precise jump to grab the crowbar, as I did. And now we're in Residue Processing. So basically what happened there was the army, there's a army unit called the Hazardous Environment Containment Unit, or the HECU, we're going to call it. They're basically sent by the government to completely silence any evidence that this Resonance Cascade happened, that this alien invasion happened, because again, this is an entirely sketchy, like, underground facility that is not in the public at all, so they need to kind of contain that. It's kind of dark because they have to murder everybody who's involved, which ain't great, including us, so they're trying to murder us real bad. So what I did there was a strat called Meat Grab or Golden Pebble, whichever one you prefer. You have to either grab the meat or grab the pebble, and you can use it to launch through the pipe that I launched through prior. And that's a really hard strat for 2 reasons. 1, there's only a couple frames where you can actually keep your momentum through the pipe. And for 2, which happened here, you can actually lose a good amount of HP in performing the strat. So, unfortunately, I did lose some HP there. It doesn't seem like it should be too big of a deal with how my current HP is, but it's likely that I'll have to spend some time healing later on. So this is the newest strat in the game currently. Not anything major, but we can jump on those levers after we activate them. Very weird mechanic. And it saves a second or 2 and also skips an RNG section. And this map overall is basically one giant cycle that we need to try to get past. I've already messed up getting past the fastest cycle, but we can still make it a better cycle than just by playing better, which we got a decent one there. Didn't have to wait for that crusher at the end, so now we're in QE, questionable ethics. So, do a neat little movement sequence there. And now, our goal for this chapter is going to be getting one of the most fun mechanics in this game that we're going to be abusing real hard for the rest of the run, called the Gauss rifle, or the Gauss rifle, however you want to say it. I've always said Gauss, even though it's spelled Gauss, and I can't change my ways because I am too far in the hole of saying Goss. Either way. So, something kind of unfortunate about this chapter is that a good amount of it has to do with NPC luck. And I say luck with air quotes because luck is not actually too much of a thing with NPCs. Sometimes NPCs will act in strange ways that you do not want them to. But that is generally because you did something a little bit wrong. But the things that you can do wrong are so tiny and minute that it might as well be uncontrollable. But ideally, that scientist is going to follow us to a certain point, and after that certain point, he'll stop somewhere where he won't end up getting scared by a bunch of people. And I need to get your shotgun, so I'm going to kill you. So what I'm doing here is I'm save loading a ton in order to duplicate the SMG grenades that that man without the hat is dropping. So we have all of our SMG grenades we'll ever needed now, and we can continue to grab the Gauss rifle right here. Get blocked by that bull squid, not very nice, and drop down these stairs to make that back up with our boy, which thankfully landed in a nice spot. So basically, if he lands next to these glasses, he'll end up getting really scared. Normally, he gets scared of those head crabs no matter what you do, but we actually did a particular strat here where we lowered our HP to 50 or below, which, if you remember from earlier, will cause the NPCs to want to heal you. And when the NPC wants to heal you, he'll make that his priority. He'll run at you, and his only goal is to heal you and to give you life. So, until that happens, he won't be scared of nothing. Very dedicated soul. So now we're in Surface Tension, which is also one of the hardest chapters in the game, and this is where all runs die. Every single one of them. Because there's many, many hard tricks to get through in this one. So, hopefully that doesn't happen. We're going to be using this satchel here to boost up onto this cliffside. And we need to hopefully not take too much damage from here on out, so I'm going to need to be pretty quick about my movement and careful with where I go. Which unfortunately did not happen. If I don't take any more damage, which so much for that. So I took an absurd amount of damage there, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to go for one of the cool strats on this map called Pipe to Pipe, where I'd go from this pipe to the other pipe, but we'll be able to do neat little Gauss boost. So if you haven't noticed, the Gauss has a lot of recoil momentum. You can charge it up and you can shoot it in order to get going either on bunny hops. You can start bunny hops with it. You can do big boosts along cliffs with it. One limitation of the Gauss rifle is unfortunately the ammo for it is very, very scarce. We pretty much grab every ammo drop that is on our path for the rest of the run because we basically want to abuse how powerful this mechanic is throughout the rest of the game. Thankfully my ammo count is pretty good here, so we're going to charge it up, launch our way onto the roof, and move on to kind of neat map here. I'm going to be trying to go for a pretty hard strat here. See if I can do it. Oh, baby. Let's go. Oh. That's the downfall of the strat. So that strat is basically trying to do a really hard Gauss boost to get into the elevator quicker than I normally would. The downside of it is that no matter how good you are at it, sometimes it just will kill you because a NPC will jump into the laser. So, unfortunately, that happened and my glory was cut short. But, you know, it happens. And reloading awkwardly. So, what we did there was we actually broke the box that contained that Gauss ammo twice. So breaking it twice causes it to drop its contents twice. So we actually got double the Gauss ammo we were supposed to there, which is very useful considering how important it is that we have a lot of this ammo. Now, coming up next is possibly the highlight of this run, the most obscenely busted trick that we're going to be using to make the rest of the run absurd. This is also the hardest individual strat in the game. This is called Maximum IHD, and I'll let you know what IHD stands for in just a quick second. So our goal with the Maxim part of the IHD is we need to launch up on top of the skybox here. Franker Z? And we need to basically launch onto the skybox and get to the end here where we're going to be doing an NPC abuse where this guy's going to run into this door and we're going to get stuck on this door. And when you get stuck on doors on this map, something really wacky's happening. If you look at the bottom of the screen, something a little bit wacky's happening. So this door and all the other doors on this map for some reason have the tendency to heal you because when you get stuck on them, you are supposed to take 1 damage, but you end up taking -1 damage, which thankfully heals us. So our HP is overflowing because only a byte is used to store the HP value. So now that we have our large amount of HP, we're going to start using explosive boosts and all sorts of boosts all the time because we have no reason not to. But keep in mind that even though the trick is called infinite health door, we have by no means infinite health. We still have to keep keep our HP very much in mind throughout the rest of the run, because ideally you want to spend the least amount of time getting HP at the infinite health door as possible. So because of that, you're going to want to end up taking as little unnecessary damage as possible for the remainder of the run in order to ensure that you can finish the run with the amount of HP you get. So the best runners of the game will end up getting around 7 cycles, each cycle being 255 health. And I will take 8 cycles plus 100 HP to keep myself a little bit safe, because that extra third of a second isn't going to be too big of a extra second isn't too big of a concern for me. You get healed at 100 HP per second, equivalent to the frame rate. So either way, dang. So here is a place where our game can crash if we're unlucky, and we're also just getting unlucky in general because this dude keeps opening my door. The Hornet Gun in this game has the unique property of being able to reverse things that are opening or closing. So if a door is closing on us and we want it to be opening, we can use the... I did not cook a grenade. We can use the Hornet Gun to do such that. I'm going to do a big boost there. And now we're going to be going into a little bit of a big fight map. We have to fight a bunch of alien grunts. I'm going to do that real quick by shooting 2 of them, getting a collateral there, throwing a grenade behind us, killing this one with an SMG nade. And now we're going to shoot this scientist through the door. And the reason we want to do that is because it will murder him. I thought that was consistent. All right, well, now I know it isn't. There you go. That's a good thing to know, so that doesn't happen in a speedrun that can PB. So we're going to do all this again. The reason we need to reload is because he's dead. You can't open doors when you're dead, and Gordon has no access to open doors. Aliens can open doors, security guards can open doors. Not Gordon. Doesn't have access. So Lambda Core is a pretty run-of-the-mill chapter. We're going to be continuing to do some grenade boosts and Gauss boosts. So if you have any other donations, feel free. Get those going.
Okay, well, it looks like we don't have any other donations, but I do want to mention we have all of those controller cams that we've mentioned. But beyond that, we also have quite a few polls that you can donate towards. So, for example, later we'll be playing Enter the Gungeon. What sort of character do you want to use? You can donate for that. Or Super Metroid. Save or kill the animals. You can donate for that. Paid game. You can donate for who you want to use. And yell the animals.
We're speedrunners. We're speedrunners here.
Exactly.
Okay, so last map of Lambda Core here before we go into the Zen chapters of the game. All we got to do here is make this scientist, or soldier, excuse me, security guard, whatever you want to call him. You want to make him angry at us, and he's going to go run away after we shoot at him, or after we throw a grenade behind us, and he'll let us skip the very long cutscene. And we can also skip another long cutscene by shooting Hornets into that teleporter. So the way that Hornets work is that they'll actually basically take up a... What? Someone clip that. I don't know how I didn't take any fall damage there, and I need to figure that out. Either way, continuing with that, the Hornets will delay the death trigger from killing you at the end of the Lambda Core chapter, so you can use it to get into the change level trigger that will take us to the next map. So, speaking of next map, we're going to be fighting a boss fight here. This is a mama head crab called the Goknak, or the Gonarch, if you want to be proper. Shoutouts to Goknak, legendary Half-Life 2 runner. But either way, so we wanna kill those head crabs, and we wanna wait for this this lady to just strut her way over to us. And don't look at anything here. Don't think anything dirty. It's all completely fine. So what we need to do here is we need to use our Gauss shots, and we need to make sure she's completely looking at us when we shoot them, or else she'll randomly get stuck in place sometimes, and we'll lose a lot of time because of it. So our goal here is to basically have her run between all of her different phases where you can actually do damage to her as soon as you can, and have her keep going. So for instance, on this next map, we have to be very particular with where we're positioning ourselves and how much damage we're doing to her, because sometimes she will completely ignore your damage. Sometimes there will be 4 phases or 5 phases to this fight, when there's supposed to be 3. If you do some really wacky things, it's really aggravating when you're ahead and then you lose 20 seconds because the game decides it wanted to have more phases, but it's because you did something wrong. As little as you could do wrong there. But we did it right there, thankfully. So we're going to make our way down to the end of the chapter. And normally there's supposed to be a 3rd phase of this fight, actually, where we fight her again from below. But instead we can just blow up the floor, because conveniently enough, if you can blow someone up in this game, or if it breaks from an event, you can just blow it up. It's great. You don't have to actually fight anything. Except for the things earlier on in that fight. For some reason, those things are impenetrable. So either way, this is the last movement section of the game. Interloper as a chapter is quite fun. My favorite chapter in Zen. All the other chapters are just kind of not too great. If I'll be honest, Zen in this game, not too great. Black Mesa Zen is unbelievable. So kind of hard to play this one when you are experiencing something so much greater. So here we're going to be using our Gauss rifle, boosting off the wall here to get into this next map quickly. We're going to do a grenade boost immediately. To make it up here. Unfortunately, did not keep my momentum from that boost very well. And if you haven't noticed, I've been save loading every so often. This actually resets NPC's animations, so if a Vortigon is about to attack us with its electricity beam, we can just save load and we'll be completely safe. And here we go, into that teleporter. One more map before we're going to make our way to Nylanth. You're going to see some numbers on the top left of your screen coming up. Right here. Look at that, numbers. So the reason I need these numbers is because I need to see that pitch go to 0. And as soon as it goes to 0, I'm going to start shooting at the Nylanth with my Tau cannon. And as soon as I shoot a good amount of shots at her, or at them, it's a giant baby, I'm not entirely sure, we're going to just kind of deal as much damage to them as we can. Unfortunately, the Nylanth started healing a bit there, so I have to be a bit more careful about how much damage I'm doing and do a bit of extra damage. So now I'm going to do a grenade boost, fly above the Nylanth, and time will be right now. There we go. That's Half-Life. Not a bad run. 30-43 PB. This is the in-game timer. I hit it just to not make things confusing, also because I don't want to look at it. This is about a minute off my PB, which is not bad for a marathon run. In fact, this was probably my best marathon run performance I've done. Which it wasn't a great performance, but I mean, I can't complain about a minute off PB. So yeah, thank you for having me. You're going to see that hot controller cam coming up with the next run. Shoutouts to Half-Life speedrun community, Maxim for being the unbelievable god of this game he is. Source runs in general, we're hype community right now because of the HLA hype. Everyone's going all over the place for that game. So it's an exciting time to be a Half-Life runner. And enjoy the rest of the marathon. Stay safe, stay indoors, play video games, all that good stuff.
Thank you so much, Alex, for offering up that game. It was an amazing watch. You did an excellent job. And also, I believe we have one last donation that was directed towards you from Roxless for $20 that says, here's a $20 spot for all my friends who are running at Calithon. Bless RNG to you, Ali, and let's get a ton of money to provide relief to those in need.